welcome to a special edition of Drive Home Reviews. The only thing that really makes it special is that I am broadcasting from my home state of Alaska, and I'm in my mom's new car, the Silver Streaker, as we like to call it. So anyone who has taken the long plane ride up to Alaska can attest you have to find something to pass the time. iPads are wonderful things, but Delta has those wonderful screens in the back of the chairs which broadcast movies. I'm saying broadcast a lot when that is not what any of that is doing. But at any rate, last year I took in the Pixar film Luca, which I reviewed, and this year I decided to check out this film. This is an Amazon original that is scrolling through the new releases. This one caught my eye because the description was fairly interesting. I thought it was a great little setup for a film, especially a romantic comedy. So odds are you probably haven't heard of this film, so let's talk about it. So what is this movie about? Well, our film centers on Tom Claflin as a English writer who has written a book. It's taken him 5 years. The book is not selling. It is getting panned critically, basically being called boring. It's a romance story, pardon me as I adjust this, but with no sex in it. He actively tries to avoid sex, and nobody is enjoying the book until he finds out that his book has reached the #1 bestseller list in Mexico. And he is scheduled to go on a book tour to promote it there. So he goes, only to find out that the reason that the book is such a success there is that Maria, the young woman who was hired to translate the book, decided to take some creative liberties and essentially rewrite his book into an erotica, unbeknownst to him. So right away, that's a fascinating setup for a romantic comedy. One of the problems you have with romantic comedies, especially these days, is they feel like they have to be really gimmicky. You've got to have some kind of gimmick to get the people into the seats, and I thought this one was one of the more interesting. I liked the idea of a writer whose work has been rewritten completely against his will, and in another language, and there's a lot of conflict and a lot of fun that can come from that. And I think the film, to its credit, one of the strengths of the film is that it does a great job mining that idea for all it's worth. I think it plays the conflict between the two characters really well. There is a natural attraction. I feel like the relationship builds in a natural way from conflict to friendship to affection to love, which again is something that a lot of romantic comedies have difficulty with, especially in the modern age. I've said this many times, that the problem with a lot of romantic comedies is you can't understand why these two people would be together. And I think for the most part, I need to put that asterisk there with the for the most part, I feel like this film does do a good job of having these two characters meet, disagree, bond, and build the relationship from a mutual place. Whereas a lot of other films don't do that. I also feel this is another film in this interesting subgenre that's gaining more and more speed, and I'm very happy about that, because I found it incredibly charming the first time I saw it. I guess the best way to classify this is a bilingual film. This is not a foreign film, as it's in both English and Spanish. And I first kind of was introduced to this concept with the excellent Everybody Loves Somebody a few years ago, and the quite detestable Overboard remake. But in either case, I think it's a fascinating genre of cultures colliding, of language barriers, of mixing of cultures. It's and I think this one is really well done, and I think it has a lot more fun with the premise than some of the past examples. There is one of the best scenes in the film is when Sam Claflin, I believe his name is attempting to comfort Maria's son after she and her son have a fight. Now, the problem being is that Sam Claflin doesn't speak Spanish, and the young boy doesn't speak English. So he is trying his best with a guidebook, basically, to communicate and to comfort this young boy, despite that there's a language barrier. And they don't pull any of the usual jokes you would, where he goes off and has this big speech and doesn't realize to the last second that the boy doesn't understand. He knows right off the bat that the kid's not going to understand him. And so a lot of the communication is done through reactions. He reads something out of the book trying to communicate his feelings. The boy kind of says, no, that's not, you're not saying that right. And he has to go back. And it's an incredibly well done scene. And it's never, in my opinion, and I get that this is coming from a white man's perspective, so I don't know how any Hispanic viewers might view this. So if I'm wrong in this, please feel free to tell me. But to me, the scene felt very genuine. It didn't feel like anybody was being talked down to. Didn't feel like, it was being insulting to either person. It was a genuinely touching, really well acted, really well written scene. And I think this film really, really works with a lot of the conventions that it sets up. I also think that what really benefits this film is some very, very good performances. Particularly, I have to give another nod to Sam Coughlin, who has been a favorite of this review channel almost since its inception, with his performances in Me Before You and his performance in one of my new favorite movies, Their Finest. And I feel like he is an actor who is more talented than his level of notoriety would have you believe. And just from the work I've seen, I've never seen him give a bad performance. And he seems to, he's a character actor with a leading man's appeal. What I think might be holding him back a little bit, and I don't think this is a bad thing, is I think he works better as a character actor. He works better in an ensemble than he does as a name above the title kind of guy. He works better when he is part of the group. Because, again, as a good character actor, he can blend and he can become any character he kind of needs to be. In Me Before You, a wounded, emotionally and physically damaged person. In Their Finest, a snarky, sarcastic, caustic kind of guy. And in this film, he's doing his best Hugh Grant impression, just being so English and charmingly befuddled. He's one of those actors that I always say I think he's just a one film away from really breaking out. And I don't know what that movie's gonna be, but I feel like he's got the talent to really have a big impact on Hollywood. But at the same time, I almost hope he doesn't get that film, because I think he's doing better at, these type of roles. I don't want to see him become Ryan Reynolds and just do the same part all the time. I don't want to see him be Chris Pratt and just do the same part all the time. I want to continue to see him expand and do all of these different roles that being a character actor affords him. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, But he's really great in this, and I really enjoyed his character. I also think Maria, played by, I'm going to mispronounce her last name, I apologize profusely for this. Veronica, I'm not even going to try. I'm sorry. Maybe that's ignorant, but I don't want to butcher this young woman's name. That's so disrespectful. Maybe it's more disrespectful to not even try. I don't know, but I don't want to butcher it. But the young lady playing Maria is also really strong, and the two of them have a good chemistry. Anyone will tell you that's one of the most important things, not just in acting in any film, but especially in a romantic comedy. You need that chemistry between the two characters, and they work very well together. And I think a lot of their scenes together, either fighting or getting to know each other, to falling in love, to working together. It all blends really well. I also think with a concept like this one, the all is lost moment, I don't have the means to put my usual clip in there, so please forgive me. The all is lost one feels, you know it's coming, but it also feels natural. You know where this is going to go. But with a concept like this, one of the biggest questions you have to ask is, they ask you as a writer, as a director, to kind of think of, why does the person stay in the room? So why does everybody still go along with this, the charade once it's revealed? And I think they do a good job of kind of illustrating for both parties. Yeah, you're not getting what you want out of it, but you're getting something out of it, and it affects a lot of people, and there's a reason why they are continuously keeping the secret. So, I think in some cases, this is a really well-written, really well-thought-out movie. Some really fun performances from some very underrated and unknown actors that makes the most out of its situation and makes the most out of its concept. So it would sound like this is a really great film, and it's a good film, but it's not a great film. And I feel that, and I find this especially ironic given the situation, the reason it's not a great film is because some of the initial flaws in the concept are never addressed, which I think is funny, because obviously somebody wrote this. So I find it funny that writers writing a script like this would not have commentary on one of the major points of this. So again, the story is that this person, Maria, rewrote this guy's book into something that he did not intend. And I feel the biggest problem I had with this movie, maybe, and this could just be me as a writer, as a playwright, the fact that is never addressed, the fact that she rewrote his work without his knowledge, changed his words, changed his story, that none of that is ever addressed. Or it's addressed, but it is never painted as she did something wrong. It is painted as she had a right to do it because his book was boring. And I'm sorry, as a writer, and again, this film was written by people, so I assume that they must feel the same way. As a writer, that's just bullshit. That you feel you have the right, that because you don't like something, that you can go back and just change it, change someone else's creative output. That's bullshit. So from a moral standpoint, that really irks me, especially when she gets mad at him. Like when it's discovered, when he figures out she's pissed off at him, and seems to feel that him being mad at her is like, he has no right to be mad at her because his book was boring and stupid and deserved to be changed. So from a moral perspective, it really pissed me off. But what it really pissed me off was the problems it creates from a story perspective. Because the problem that they create here is that basically saying that Sam's book, that he has no talent. It's basically saying he has nothing. He offers nothing to the collaborative relationship. When these two eventually have to come together and write a sequel together, the question is, why do they need to work together? Nothing he did contributed. They make it clear that his work is boring. So what is he contributing? And therefore, metaphorically, what is he contributing to the relationship? We see what she gets out of it, but what is he getting out of it, or what is he bringing to it? Rather, not so much what he's getting out of it, but what is he bringing to it? We see what she brings to the table, but we're never told what he brings to the table. And I think this is one of those issues that could have been very easily addressed. Minor changes would have made this premise work so much better. For instance, one such change, she continuously tells him how boring his book is. But he constantly says that he spent 5 years writing it, which means that even if it's boring to you, it means that he put a lot of care and a lot of time and a lot of energy into it and a lot of thought. So it meant that this book meant something to him. And I think it would have been great. She has a lot of assumptions about him. You know, of course, she's the poor working woman, working single mother, you know, who nobody notices. And of course, he's the posh British guy who had everything handed to him, or at least as she sees it. It would have been nice if maybe in the course of reading his book and, you know, after knowing him, maybe she gained better insight into him. Why was this book written this way? Why was it so important to him that there not be any sex in the story? Why did he spend so much time describing a bicycle? You know, as opposed to just writing it off, what was it that made it so important to him, and have her maybe gain a better understanding of him as a person? But it doesn't do that. Or, conversely, you could have shifted it a little bit, that maybe he has a good knack for coming up with plots, but not very good at writing characters or passion, whereas she has a knack for dialogue, but can't really ever find characters or stories to make them work. Now you see what he contributes. Now you see how he can provide the outline, she provides the flavor. There you go. And that creates a nice metaphor for their relationship. What are they both getting out of this? What are they both contributing to the overall relationship? But it's never done. It is an incredibly one-sided relationship. She's right. She has the talent. He is just the goofy British guy who happened to be along for the ride. And it creates an imbalance in the story, and it creates an imbalance in the relationship. And as such, I don't feel like these two characters ever really connect in a way that is really meaningful. You want a good example of this? And God help me, it hurts me to praise a Drew Barrymore movie, but the film Music and Lyrics, I think, does a good job of saying, okay, she has the knack for lyrics, he has the music know-how, and knows how to fine-tune, and we see where the collaboration comes in, how they work together and how they benefit one another. And this film is missing that. And as such, as fun as this movie can be and as enjoyable as it can be, I feel that's what really keeps it from pushing forward into that upper echelon. As it stands, this film is enjoyable, it's cute, it's good for a diversion on a 5-hour plane ride, but I don't know if I'd ever want to watch it again. And I don't know if it's going to provide much entertainment outside of that, which is a shame, because there are a lot of really good qualities to this movie, and I wish, and again, it's funny that someone had to write this, and I wonder if, just the nature of Hollywood, if it had some of those elements, but then they got cut out. I would not be surprised at that. So that's this. So final grade for Book of Love. I'm going to go a C+ on this one. Again, it's not a bad movie. It's enjoyable, really good performances. They have fun with the concept and the premise, and they have fun with their own genre. But I feel like there is a critical piece missing from making it a truly memorable and great movie. So if you watch it, I don't think you're going to be disappointed in it, or you'll have a good time, but I think at the end, it's going to leave you wanting a bit. So there it is. That's me. All right, so I thank you for joining me on this summer edition. Other reviews are coming. Beck and I need to redo our Bob's Burgers one. Long story there. But yeah, so I hope you're having a great summer. I'm doing pretty well, having a good one. Looking forward to having more, and I'm hoping for some exciting news in the future. So thank you for joining me, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.